When you're selling me a game to play, you can pretty much stop after from the creators of Far Cry 3. That's all I need to hear. That game was one of the best open world shooters that I've ever played, and one of the few that motivated me to not only play through the main campaign, but through most of the side missions as well. Child of Light, however, being a lighthearted, fairy tale-esque role-playing game, is about as far from Far Cry 3 as you can get. It's a beautiful game, featuring a lush, painterly art style that recalls Miyazaki films such as Princess Mononoke. The game is, I think, pretty much worth playing just for the visuals alone. It looks that good. It also features a memorably melancholy score that suits the game perfectly and cements the fact that this is a game with top-notch presentation. The centerpiece of the gameplay is the turn-based JRPG-style battles that are fairly complex and highly involving. In a nutshell, there's a timeline, and when your turn comes up, you can attack, defend, or use a potion from your inventory. If you time your attacks just right, you can make your opponents miss a turn, and likewise, the same can happen to you. You also have control of a magical firefly who can either be used to slow a selected opponent down or recharge your HP. This could have been a recipe for a harried, unpleasant gameplay experience, but because the game gives you all the time you need when your turn arises, you rarely feel you have too much to process and not enough time to do it. The game also does away with armor, instead allowing you to equip 3 gems per character that affect various stats. It feels like an oversimplification at first, but you soon realize that there's a lot of customization that can be made. Outside of the combat, however, the game's weaknesses become much more apparent. The platforming elements never provide any real challenge. It's really just there to get you from point A to point B and to get you to the next battle. It feels like a more dynamic version of a typical JRPG's overworld rather than a legitimate platforming challenge, which can't help but feel like a bit of a missed opportunity. You're also occasionally called upon to solve puzzles. These puzzles, and I think it's a bit of a stretch to call them puzzles at all, may as well not even be there. Unless you consider matching identical shapes to be any kind of brain teaser, this was yet another missed opportunity. And as delightful as the art style is, wandering around the very samey environments can start to feel a bit monotonous after a while. As for the story, which finds you as a little girl transported to a strange land away from her beloved father, it's kind of threadbare. It's sadly never even close to as involving as it's clearly trying to be. I can't help but compare it to the Fantastic Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, which told a similarly fairy tale inspired story, but managed to cram it with so much emotional weight, which is pretty much entirely lacking here. Happily, unlike most actual JRPGs, the game doesn't require a ridiculous 100-hour plus commitment. It took me about 10 hours to complete the game, which is a great value for $15, but also short enough that it doesn't wear out its welcome or feel like an unreasonable time commitment. Ultimately, there's enough good stuff here for me to easily recommend this game to anyone who likes this sort of thing. The amazing art design and the well thought out combat system are a real joy. It just makes me sad that everything else feels a bit thin. I'd also like to note that the final boss is exceptionally more difficult than the rest of the game, so be warned. It's a frustrating, out-of-left-field difficulty spike that made me appreciate the relatively hardy construction of the Xbox 360 gamepad. Had it been made out of flimsier material, I'm fairly confident that I would have snapped it in half.